All right, guys, back on Southeastern 16 with Max Barr previewing the second round NCAA tournament matchup between number 1 seed Auburn, number 9 seed Creighton in the South Region. Takes place on Saturday, 6:10 p.m. Central Time, either on TBS or truTV. Doesn't look like that's completely set yet at Rupp Arena in Lexington, or as we like to call it, the second home for Miles Kelly for the Tigers, who has played pretty well there this year. Seeing if he can keep that hot streak going. He'll need to because Auburn comes off a game where they won by 20 against Alabama State. But if you saw some of the comments from Stephen Pearl, from Dylan Cardwell, not pleased were the Tigers with their particular outputs in that game. Now they're going to have to be better because we saw how good Creighton was in game one against Louisville. Everyone was hyping up this big Auburn-Louisville showdown, Max, and Lexington, how unfair it was for the number 1 seeded Tigers. Well, it might be unfair against Creighton because they look pretty good in that game. And listen, that's a team that's played pretty well down the stretch of the regular season. Came out, took it to Louisville, won by 14. We're up by 20 at one point in that game. Made 11 threes, which is just like, of course they did, right? It's Creighton and Neal, Ashworth, Kalkbrenner. Got some experienced people on this roster here, Max, going up against an old team, as we said, in the Tigers.
Nothing better than starting your bracket 1-0. Shout out to the Bluejays for giving me a nice start to 2025's March Madness. Yeah, this spread, Blake, is out at 9.5. And I know the predictives are the predictives and the analytics are what they are. But did Ryan Kalkbrenner stop playing overnight? Did he decide to go back to Omaha and say, I'm not playing against the Tigers? What are we doing here? It is March Madness, and Creighton just looked like the LA Lakers for a stretch of that first half, doing heat check threes left and right. Kalkbrenner can't be stopped, denying everything at the rim, and we're giving them 9.5. Vegas thinks this is going to be an Auburn. Nice setup here, and Auburn cruises. I am of the opinion that this is going to be an absolute battle between two of maybe the best bigs of the past 4 years, to be honest. These guys have dominated for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, right? And I do feel like it is as simple as, we always say sometimes that first game, no matter who you are, like it's kind of an adjustment perhaps where you're just trying to figure some things out. And you're like, all right, it's the number 1 seed and the 16th seed. We saw what Houston did to SIU Edwardsville, and, we saw what other teams did like that, right? Take the 2 seed, St. John's, and all those kind of scenarios. But for Auburn, like it wasn't as easy. And again, like we said, no matter what the comments were, I mean, Bruce Pearl said, he's like, look, we have to play better if we're going to win. Like we all know that. And I think that's where for Auburn, the one thing we said we wanted to see from them in that Alabama State game was that they came out with a little more of that focus, a little more of that chip on their shoulder, right? But you didn't really get that. And I think that's where, as you start to look at this matchup, you did kind of see that from Creighton. Because I think it did look like a team that came out and said, man, we've heard all this talk about how unfair it is that, all right, Louisville gets to play in Lexington and they're just going to march on and they might beat Auburn and all this other stuff. Well, hang on a second. Like, they got to beat us first. And so now you do kind of have a scenario where it does feel like a lot of people are probably going to look at this game and say, all right, I might take a chance on Creighton here because they, again, have a coach who's been here before. You mentioned it. I mean, Kalkbrenner's story, well documented. I mean, just the impact this guy can have on a game. And, I mean, there's no doubt when we talk about, like, the big man matchup, like, Broome and Kalkbrenner here, like, this is tremendous in terms of being able to see how does this play out in the front court. But I think, Max, to me, that's where these other guys that we've talked about all season long for Auburn, that's, to me, is where this is going to be kind of that, if they want to avoid this upset as the number 1 overall seed in this tournament and they want to keep this thing going. Chaney Johnson had a good game, right? Like, Dylan Cardwell needs to have a good game. Like, you need all of these guys contributing. We laughed about the Miles Kelly thing, but I think it goes without saying just from a shooting perspective. It'd be nice to have Miles Kelly hit 7 threes against Creighton. Whether that happens or not, we'll see. But I think that's where, hey, it's going to be fun to talk about Broome and Kalkbrenner and all that, but this is where that depth for Auburn we talked about all year long, that they need to flex that a little bit. Like, again, you need those good games from Chaney Johnson, Dylan Cardwell, 20-plus minutes maybe for both of these guys. Yeah, so it's like I'm fascinated to see how this goes in terms of the minutes distribution in a game like this against Creighton.
You stole it right out in front of me. We hadn't mentioned Chaney Johnson all video, and you steal it right before I'm going to go to Chaney. Hey, I got on Chaney in our preview. I said he'd been in a little bit of a slump, but in a streak of about 5 games, floating between 3 and 5 points. And Auburn's at their best when they're getting offense from Chaney, helping out Broome, taking the pressure off of him in the front court in the mid-range a little bit. Chaney, 28 minutes. That's the most he's had in the past 8 games. Nice boost. He plays well against the lower teams. Maybe he just needed to see a few go in and get going a little bit. Got to the free throw line too a little bit more than he has been. More aggressive. I really liked that from Chaney. It seems like the staff challenged him. Seemed like he was looking for it. So that could be big. Another thing that is in the favor of Auburn here. Blake, pop quiz. How many times have opponents scored double-digit threes on Auburn this year?
3 times.
Once. It was Florida when Florida went 13 of 33. There's been a few nines, but a few. Like, they are holding teams between like 3 and 8 threes pretty much the entire season. This is a Creighton team that can rip the nets. They just did it. They've done it all year. But this is an Auburn team that has played offenses that can do that all year long in the SEC. Some teams that can absolutely light it up. If you ask me, what do I trust more, Auburn's perimeter defense or Creighton's perimeter offense? Based on the numbers, Auburn is not letting you get double-digit threes. It's only happened once all year.
And that was the key for Creighton against Louisville, as we said. I mean, and that was just such a big part of it because, look, they came into this tournament like not shooting it as well as we had used to seeing some of Greg McDermott's teams shoot. Like, go back to last year, right? They were a top 25 team. When they got to the Sweet 16 last year, they were shooting about 37%. They're shooting 34% now, which I assume Max would have probably been in the upper 33% prior to shooting it well in that game against Louisville. So they were top 100, in 2023 when they made it to the Elite Eight. But again, they're in that 150-ish range right now in three-point percentage. When they got the Sweet 16 in 2021, shot at 36%, so they were 62nd nationally. So, this just isn't the same kind of shooting team, but that doesn't mean they can't make shots. But it will be harder against this Auburn team for all the reasons you mentioned when it comes to the perimeter defense. And I think, too, that's where we talk about Denver Jones, right? Because when we've talked about Auburn having some of those kind of signature wins this season, especially we go back and remember the one in Alabama, it was Denver Jones who was driving the whole thing because of his defense. And I think that's where in this kind of game that becomes crucial because from the offensive standpoint, Creighton doesn't force turnovers. Auburn doesn't turn the ball over. So you would expect Auburn to get whatever they want offensively. So Denver Jones, a big part of that because he's going to be running the show, Pettiford, all the so crucial there. But defensively, you're going up against, like we said, a guy like Stephen Ashworth who's played a lot of valuable minutes and a very experienced point guard, where I do think there is the opportunity to force some mistakes there. And I think that's where, to me, whether it's Chaney Johnson in the front court, I think Denver Jones is absolutely 100% your key in the backcourt here for Auburn on both sides of the floor, knowing that you're really going to be able to run your offense and you need to run it and execute it well. But also I think defensively, that's where if you can just throw Creighton off a little bit in terms of their rhythm, they are a team that turns the ball over, and I think that's for Auburn could be the key. If they win this thing, we may look up and say, all right, the team that disrupted the other team more, that was why they won, and I think Auburn statistically fits that profile.
I think defensively, it's a great matchup for Auburn with the way that their perimeter defense sets up and how their weakness is fouling. They're weak. I mean, it's become it's not even something we've been harping on. Now it's like they are 313th in defensive free throw rate out of 364 teams. It's an issue. It has become an issue, and that's how teams have been able to muck up the game slow Auburn's pace down, get Cardwell in foul trouble, and get that Auburn front court out of what they want to do. This is a Creighton team that is not going to take advantage of it. They are not set up to be aggressive and draw contact, where Auburn's 313th in defensive free throw rate. The offensive free throw rate for Creighton is only 3 spots higher in the nation at 310th. So I think defensively, with the way that Auburn completely takes away the 3-point line, and then they're not going to have that Achilles heel of the fouling be taken advantage of too much, I think that sets up real nice for the Auburn defense. However, if you flip it to Creighton defensively, speaking of free throws, they're number one every year in defensive free throw rate. They're not putting you on the line. And we've talked about Ryan Kalkbrenner for the past 11 minutes. Good luck getting something easy around the rim. Good luck. I know it's Johni Broome. I know this is an incredible offense. This is one of the best defensive players we've seen in a long time, and Ryan Kalkbrenner. Going to have to hit shots. Miles Kelly, big game. Loves playing in that arena. It's going to have to come down to some nice shot making for Auburn. Before we get to picks, Blake, I want to get in a quick stat. Creighton's Jemiah Neal. This is from Jared Burson. He's phenomenal. Jemiah Neal yesterday against Louisville. 29 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. 29, 12, and 6. All right. On 11 of 16 shooting, 68%. That's the first player with 25, 10, and 5 on 65% shooting or better since 2003, when who did it? Dwayne Wade. Yeah. So we've been talking about Ashworth. We've been talking about Kalkbrenner. Jemiah Neal just played the game of his life and is playing as confident as ever. I know it's 9.5. I'm going Tigers here, Blake. I'm going Auburn. I like how the defense sets up. I think they can win it with their defense, because I think, man, it is tough to get consistent offense inside against Kalkbrenner. I'm going Auburn here, but, man, do not sleep on a team hot in March, and that's exactly what Creighton is.
Creighton did everything right against Louisville. Like they played good defense against a team that we said, like, matchup wise, hey, Louisville is a team that they're going to get up and down the floor. That we knew what their thing was: get up and down the floor, try to find some open shots, knock those shots down, roll to victory, right? But Creighton defended well. They, as we mentioned, they were just able to do the things that you had to do. They shot the ball better at a higher percentage than they've done this season. Not necessarily they've done before, because that's, again, trademark of Greg McDermott's teams, but they shot the ball at a high percentage. So they played above kind of where we, thought they would play. That's pretty much the sum of the game there. Yeah. And it's like, can they keep that rolling in another game? Can you see those percentages continue to be in their favor against Auburn? I'm going to pick Auburn too, but we had this debate as to whether we should be concerned or panicked or anything like that for the SEC tournament when Auburn lost that game to Tennessee. And at the time, it was like, no. But I would be lying if I said this is not concerning in terms of just where I think things sit, whether it's just the play itself against Alabama State, whether it is the post-game comments, anything like that. Like, I think there is reason to sit here and be like, we can't just ignore this, right? Like, it's not all sunshine and rainbows right now for the Auburn basketball team. And so I think it would be silly to ignore that. But we're going to find out if that sort of stuff gets them motivated, because we've seen that happen before this season, and what's happened, they've gone on a tear after it. But I don't know here, because, again, you cannot underestimate the idea that Greg McDermott has had some success in this tournament. We've seen that in recent years. He's put his team in a position, whether you feel like they're outmatched or not, they just always seem to find a way, and they were playing pretty well down the stretch, and they turned that into a big win against Louisville. I'm thinking that Auburn, just being as battle-tested as they are, even if this is not the prettiest game, I just think, like we said, matchup-wise, there are some things where you're playing a team that's not really going to force you to get out of your offensive rhythm as long as you take the right shots. Like you said, if you take the wrong shots trying to go at Kalkbrenner, it's going to make it a lot harder. So, yes, Miles Kelly has to make shots. Chad Baker-Mazar has to make shots. Denver Jones. That's the kind of game that it is here for Auburn. I'm going to pick them, but I'd be lying if I said I was as confident as I thought I'd be a week ago in this spot. So there you go.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
Bracket Bids, check them out. Our friends over there, check out everything they got going on this March. Lots of fun stuff. So hopefully you're enjoying that free pick'em contest or your auction draft league if you're signed up over there. So yeah, check out our friends at Bracket Bids. Download the app today or visit them at bracketbids.com. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll have it all covered here at Southeastern 16 with live reaction to all these games on Saturday. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well, and we'll talk to you soon at Southeastern 16.